So I mean, this is one of those questions that I'm sure I will spend the next 10 years answering.
Well, do it now.
Okay.
Gervais, the only authentic French restaurant in Silicon Valley.
The standardization of the outlets on the internet. And to ask Sun what's the value of Java to our business is to ask a company that builds power generators what's the value of this plug to their business. It enables the standardization of the market in such a way that you can grow, beyond simply what you have defined as your own market. So to give you another example of that, every wireless carrier in the world today loses money when they sell a handset. And the reason they do that is because they want the subscribers. And every one of you, the day when you bought your mobile handsets, the odds are good the carrier that was serving you lost money when you signed up. But because you had that handset, they could focus on delivering more value and creating more opportunity in serving you over time. Now, there are two ways to looking at that. One is you could go to an NTT Docomo or a Vodafone or a Verizon and say, you should stop selling handsets because you're losing money on every one that you sell. The problem with saying that is that then they would stop acquiring subscribers. And they would then go out of business. And the same thing, by the way, is true for power companies or the railroad companies that originally wanted to require their customers to use a specific width of rails so that you had to buy their rail cars. It was a nice idea to lock customers into buying only from you, but it would never succeed in the long run. When this country standardized on the rails for railroads, it led to an explosion in commerce, because now anybody could connect to anybody else. So if you ask me what's the value of Java to Sun, I think Wall Street projects that we'll do about 13 billion in revenue this year. I would count all 13 billion as a result of Java. Because asking us the value of Java is like asking us what's the value of the internet. Our accounting standards may be sophisticated, but I don't think they're sophisticated enough to figure that out.
Next question, Thomas from Computer World Poland.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the grid that you've established for
Yeah.
utility computing.
Yep.
When would you plan to put some transactional offering for that? And the second is when in Europe?
The grid to which you're referring is network.com, which is the on-demand computing service that anybody in, for now, the United States can go to, register, and then buy supercomputing time. It's the only such service that exists in the whole world today. Now, for us to make that a reality in the US, we had to do a lot of work with our friends in the government to make sure that the people who were using it were not doing it for bad purposes. Because you can imagine, you could use a supercomputer to do a lot of things. You could render a movie, or you could model a bomb. So as we work with governments outside of the US to go stand up these computing services, we're going to do so recognizing that we have a responsibility to local economies to not only show them a path forward with technology, but also make sure they're not taking a step back with network identity and security. So we're working as fast as we can. We've seen global demand to have grids built in Singapore, in Poland, in Hungary, in Brazil, in Mexico, in Alaska, everywhere in the world. And we certainly want to go make that a reality. But we also have to measure our investment as well as make sure that we're being prudent and responsible for how that investment would be used.
What about transactions? I mean, these are calculations only.
So right now, these are certainly more discrete application grids than they are continuous transactional grids. It's just time. So right now we're working on the web service APIs so that you don't have to come to network.com and register and sign in and provide a PayPal account, but as you saw downstairs, so that we could stitch the grid into mashups.
So API?
Absolutely. And that's exactly where we're headed. So stay tuned. We don't have a date for you, but that's exactly where we're headed.
Next question.
Some answers as well as questions. No, I don't think it's a missed opportunity. I believe in choice. and I believe in innovation, and I think Red Hat merging with JBoss is a great way for Red Hat to join the Java community. Now, what happens next with Ubuntu? I think you should probably see from what we announced downstairs that we have a similar approach to the marketplace. We both believe in quality, in integrity and authenticity, in engaging with the developer community, and you know, I'd have 2 words for you, which are stay tuned.
Pricing models, because if you look at Ubuntu, for example, they do have price for operating system, only 5 for support, whereas
Right.
price both the operating system and the support, which is something we do.
No, we do not. And look, we have a very similar approach to the marketplace, which is, you just identified it, it's a pretty subtle idea. Sun software is free. There are not separate versions that are for developers only, that represent separate binaries. And then you have to go buy a separate contract with separate software. It just seems like a lot of wasted effort. So the products that Sun makes for free, for example, Solaris, it is free. It's an identical version to what you would then run Oracle on in your data center. Ubuntu follows the same model. So again, we have a lot in common, and we think there's a lot of market for us to go after.
Next question. Wilson Hu from IT Week, Greater China.
You've been raising your hand. We'll come back to you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Interoperability is a good thing, mainly because I don't think we have to convince enterprises or businesses that interoperability is a good thing. You know, forklift upgrades are a thing of the past, and the network enables that, and interoperability enables that. So that's just a reflection of the priorities that we see from our business customers. Developers have to make their own choices, which is how will they build their own businesses, how will they, you know, pursue their own, you know, challenges and market opportunities. So I think you're definitely right in the sense that if you're a startup, I have a hard time believing you're going to want to architect into your startup the requirement for interoperability technology. But if you're a business, you don't really have a choice of having a clean sheet of paper. You're going to start from where you are, which is going to require some level of interoperability to go get your job done.
Next question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So actually, we'd like to come back to once again to the first question was, when the announcement was made of you become CEO, it was interesting to look back on the Sun of the past couple of years because it really bears your imprint. The focus on software, you've been head of software, the mergers and acquisitions of the recent years, you've been at mergers and acquisitions. But then there was always Scott McNeely up there as a kind of umbrella when indeed his figures were kind of bad. It seems to me that now, when you're become yourself the CEO, it seems to me that perhaps there might be a period of honeymoon with Wall Street, but still, you already mentioned you don't want to cut for growth, but still there will be extreme pressure being put on you, even though revenue is a lagging indicator.
I was going to say, do I get a honeymoon? It hasn't felt that way.
but it seems to me that now with Scott McNeely gone, you will bear the brand. And how do you see indeed really the opportunities and indeed revenue, profitability, etc., and changing in the next couple of months, next couple of quarters? Because we're looking at you.
Sure. You know, when I look out into the marketplace, we, you know, I'll tell you what I told the leadership team when we had our first leadership meeting when this was announced. Literally the day this was announced, we brought all the leaders together from around Sun. And what I told them was, we're in such a unique and rare position in the marketplace that the demand for what we build will never go down for as long as we're on this earth. Never. All of you in this room will consume more network services and require more network infrastructure next year than you did this year. And I don't care if that's just because you took higher resolution digital pictures, or if you started going crazy with video cameras and started documenting your life. I mean, every one of you will listen to more digital music, buy more digital movies, send more email, visit richer websites. All of that creates demand that I don't see ever declining for as long as we're on the earth. I mean, not even the oil industry has so clear a demand horizon ahead of them, because the oil industry has to worry about ethanol and fuel cells and all kinds of competition. But I'm not worried about that other internet somehow displacing the one that we're focused on. So the challenge for Sun, certainly the challenge for me and my team, is how do we intercept that demand? How do we make sure that the demand, which to me is a foregone conclusion, comes increasingly to Sun? And the only way I believe we can do that isn't simply by better branding, or simply by being clever with press releases, or simply by writing a blog now and then. The only way to do it is to actually have the content, the intellectual property, and an authentic relationship with the people who make decisions, technical decisions. I believe we have that. So is there a lot of scrutiny on me and my team? Yeah, absolutely. And I think we enjoy it, because I think we all believe we have the right competitive assets. And look, if you want proof of that, just go downstairs again. Now the challenge is, how do we get not simply growth on the top line, how do we start delivering more value and better value to the shareholders? Because look, there's plenty of big companies in the world who are, unremarkable in any way other than their size. But if they don't have the core intellectual property, they're going to face a challenge. So I don't actually have the numbers in front of me, but I want to give you an example of what we do for a living. The companies who make jet engines in this world, probably the biggest and most profitable is GE. They sell those jet engines, and they make a tremendous amount of money with them. They sell them to companies that make airplanes. Companies that make airplanes probably don't make as much money as GE, but they make more money than the airlines to whom they sell their airplanes, who then operate those airplanes. And in the history of the airline industry, in the total history of all airlines, they've never made money. But they have brand names that you know because they're big consumer companies. So if you were going to pick a business of being in the jet engine business, in the airplane business, or running an airline, which would you pick? You'd probably be in the jet engine business, because that's where you make all the money, but that's what requires billions of dollars of R&D. So, like I said, I think there are a lot of big IT companies that are actually proxies for the airline industry. They have big brands, but in the long run, I have a hard time believing they're going to make money by doing anything other than cutting their prices day after day after day. I want to be in the jet engine business and have lots of consumers who want to travel in planes powered by Sun's jet engines. And I think that's the opportunity in front of us.
Next question.
Sorry for the long-winded answer. I don't know how to be brief.
You heard that before.
It's maybe too much a theoretical question, but
I'm good with
there is. That's why I'm doing it. In the intellectual property business, which is yours,
Yeah.
there is a part that must be proprietary because somebody has to profit on it,
Right.
and something that must be open.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the limit? How do you determine what must be open and what must be not?
I disagree with the premise that something has to be proprietary. I believe that everything that Sun does can and should be open if we want to see it broadly adopted. I think what we can deliver to the marketplace is a unique ability to deliver the innovations which, in assembly, help people get their jobs done. But just because that plug is open doesn't mean the generator isn't a fabulous business model. So, the spec for making Spark is now out under the GPL. Solaris is out under the Common Development and Distribution license called Cuddle. Looking Glass, a desktop environment we built, is out under the GPL. Java, we're going to pick the right license with the right communities. All of that opens more market opportunity and gives developers an opportunity to choose what they want from within Sun. But what a business wants is for someone else to make it all work together. So the thing to understand about free software is there's really three markets, three groups that we have to think about. Group number one is the group that makes payroll at Sun. They're the people who are disallowed from running free software in the data center. And many of you may not know this, but most businesses in the world aren't allowed to run free software without a support contract. It's a violation of their governance models for information technology. Now, why would they have such a constraint? Well, because if the 911 system goes down and you're running a product without a service contract, people's lives are lost. So most large organizations fall into that camp. They look at open source software as fueling innovation, but not really changing the business model. The second camp is the population of the world that will never pay for software, ever. And my view is free software has no pirates. And so let's stop calling them pirates, let's start calling them users. So I'm not worried about giving up any revenue when we make our products free to that community. Then there's that crowd in the middle, which is the customers that might pay you for your software. And there's an analyst at Redmonk named Stephen O'Grady who writes about these three communities. Open source and free software is all about making sure that you can appeal to that free software, the crowd that otherwise would be called pirates, that we call users, and doing your best to influence that last community, the one that might pay for your software, so that they're aware of what you have. So again, if you don't care about adoption, free software and open source software does you no good. We care a lot about adoption. Adoption is what defines the economics of our business. And I don't think we have to have anything that's locked up or proprietary in order to make money. I think we have to have good products with good support and good roadmaps and good innovation. There's plenty of money to come out of the market for that.
Next question.
Ferraris out of spare parts. So that's not new because of me. That's been there for an awfully long time. How I shape the dialogue and how I talk to the marketplace is different than Scott. How I cut my hair is different than Scott. But philosophically, what we believe in is innovations and innovators. And those are the same bets we're going to make. So, you know, I would spend less of your time looking for differences and more of your time looking for, you know, the way we see the markets and the opportunities we might identify.
Next question.
And we've already started doing that.
The 60-day?
90
or
days.
Something. 90 days.
90 days. I think it's still 90 days. 60 days, sorry. Hey, maybe we'll go to 90.
It's been 90 days.
The challenge that we have getting to the earlier question is not how do we serve our installed base. Sun and Sun shareholders don't necessarily benefit simply from Sun serving Sun's installed base. The way you build a successful business is you get into everyone else's installed base. And so try and buy hardware, try and buy software is all about reaching customers that our sales force would otherwise not meet. Because one of the interesting challenges we have, and it may not sound that way when I describe to you the orders of magnitude involved, there's 17,000 people at Sun in our sales and service organization. Which, for all of you working in media companies, you probably think, oh my gosh, 17,000 people, think how big that is. Well, one of our biggest competitors has 300,000 people in their sales and service organization. That's a lot of people. So I'm not going to compete against that company or their competitors with more people, because I can't out-hire somebody with 350,000 employees. What I am going to do is use the network to reach their customers. And my belief is the network is more efficient than a well-qualified sales rep. And if I can use the network to qualify customers, understand what they're looking for, understand their requirements, and then once I know where the customer is, send a sales rep to them, I can be much more efficient in how we go after the marketplace. Because like I said, I'm not worried about demand. I'm worried about surfacing and meeting the demand. And again, we're going to use try and buy hardware, network.com, free and open source software, visible executives who like to engage the marketplace. That's how we're going to identify the market, not by trying to out-hire somebody whose core competence may be running a large organization.
We have time for probably one more question. Actually, Aki Hoshi from Nikkei in Japan.
Yeah. So today, computer makers that has a full stack of data center is very few. But Sun Micro has a Spark and Solaris and Java and middleware stack.
Yeah.
So you have a full stack. Yeah. So do you want to be a last computer maker in the world?
Do we want to be the last in the world?
Computer maker?
I think we would love to be the last computer maker in the world. I don't think our customers would want that. I think our customers want choice. And I'll give you a great example of it. In the past 12 months, we've distributed 5 million licenses of Solaris. And again, this is a Java show, so I probably shouldn't be talking about Solaris, but 5 million licenses is more licenses than we've shipped in the history of Sun. And we've done that in the last 12 months. Now, the surprising statistic inside that number is that almost 70% of that 5 million, so almost 3.5 million of those licenses, were shipped onto non-Sun hardware. Non-Sun hardware. Dominantly, they shipped onto HP equipment. And second, probably Dell and IBM. So I no longer look at Dell, HP, and IBM as competitors. Now I see them as channel partners. And so that allows us, in a very interesting way, to redefine how it is we go to market. I don't have to go to war with IBM, HP, or Dell. I want to go to war with HP and IBM and Dell. And there's a lot of market opportunity for us to go after, for both of us. So we're certainly looking to partnerships and interoperability as a means of growing the value in the company. And again, just to end on that, I and my team are very focused on growing the value of Sun. We're not focused on just revenue growth or just efficiency or just making cuts so that we can, be a profitable business. We're going to focus on all of those because that's what our core customers want from us. There's a reason why there's 18,000 or whatever the number is downstairs. It's because they see the innovation today and they see a roadmap for tomorrow. You're not allowed to have just one of those.
We actually might have time for one more recap from Computer World New Zealand.
Looking into the future, will we be scaling back in the hardware space?
Will we be scaling back in the hardware place? Absolutely not. We have every objective to go grow the market. Look, we had, I think, the best unit volume quarter in the history of Sun last quarter, just on raw units. So the last thing in the world I'm going to do in the midst of the most radical transformation of our systems business is figure out how to get smaller. I want to figure out how to be more efficient. I want to figure out a way, and in fact, I'll give you a good example of it. To me, one of the most important products that we almost announced, but kind of sort of did, but we will shortly, is a product called Thumper. And Thumper is a 4-core Opteron system that runs 24 terabytes of SATA storage in a 4RU form factor running Solaris ZFS. So what is that product? Is it a storage product? Because 24 terabytes of storage that's a lot of disk. But it's running a 4-core Opteron system with Solaris and ZFS. Is that a computer or a storage product or a software platform? And the answer is yes. So that's what we see as representative of the future market. The last thing in the world I'm going to be doing is less of that kind of systems innovation when we see the market so squarely in front of us. So you're going to see us put more effort into systems innovation at Sun. That doesn't mean we have to invent everything, because we're not going to invent power supplies, we're not going to bend sheet metal, we don't have to own a fab, but we can certainly bring the intellectual property to bear that allows us to extract the maximum value from that market opportunity. Okay?
Yeah. And actually, unfortunately, we ran out of time. Thank you very much for attending today's session.
Good. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Gervais, the only authentic French restaurant in Silicon Valley.